Hello Y10, and here is a short video to help you do your homeworks for Spring 2 Part 2 booklet. Now the first homework that you have set, well, I'll quickly explain the booklet as well, is that in this booklet you have got your paper 1 cheat sheet. This is because a lot of the extended questions are around paper 1. Okay, so sometimes we are going to be referring to those. Now this homework booklet pretty much starts as usual with your 6 grids, so that you are revising your literature. So you got a bit of A Christmas Carol and Romeo and Juliet, because that's what we've covered so far. And for the first week, you just needed to plan. So this is a question that you're going to have for the next homework. However, we wanted to focus on this idea of really planning and thinking about your ideas in detail. So for this task, this task will be spread over 2 weeks. The week 1 is plan in detail, find vocabulary and find ideas, and the week 2 is to write your response. So I'm just going to do the first one, which is your week 1 to do the planning. Now you must remember that for paper 1 question 5, you'll get a question that looks a bit like this. It'll say magazine is asking for entries for a creative writing competition. Either write a story, okay, so it says here, write a story about a journey suggested by this picture. Now, one of the words that I say is always quite key here, is this idea of being suggested. It doesn't have to be this picture. And so, like, if you want to draw something that is on a road and actually you've got a jungle around it, you can. Here you can see a bit of traffic. You might actually write about no traffic at all, because remember, you can write what's on the picture, but you can also write outside the picture. Also, you might decide that yes, somebody's on a journey, but you're not even going to describe the road or the trees or the city behind. That you literally are going to focus on your character that's inside one of the cars, or actually completely outside of the picture, somebody that is waiting for someone to arrive home. So just remember that it doesn't have to be like you want to give, it needs to be something maybe about a journey, it needs to be maybe something about traveling, but it doesn't have to be exactly what's on the picture. The other thing that I kind of sometimes also maybe you want to recommend, just to think outside the box, is you might want to be a sign that's been there for a very long time and write from that perspective, or you might want to write from the perspective of a tree, or I know that it's not that clear on the picture, but I might decide that there's a massive city there at the back, and I might write from the perspective of a skyscraper looking down on its city, looking down at the road. You know, there are loads of things that you can write about, or even just the sky and the sun. Now, for example, in this picture, it looks quite cloudy. I don't have to make my story where it's really cloudy. Okay, that is, just be mindful of that picture, is to give you ideas, is not to like change you to it. Now, the last one is write a description of a city. Now, one of the things that I tend to find is that whatever they are giving you to write here and whatever they're giving you to write in the second one, they're actually quite kind of similar and interlinked. If I wanted to write a description of a city, I might use the above picture to give me a tiny bit of a hand. Because motorways and roads and cars are parts of cities, so you might want to use that equally to inspire you. Okay, again, if you're writing a description about a city, it might be somebody that is going through a journey through a city, and that there is traffic and things like that. So that is just a really good way of thinking about your ideas. Now, because we really wanted to focus on the plan rather than so much on the writing, we want you to like be using the thesaurus and the internet to find synonyms, for simple words that you may want to use. And think like this is the key to like really climb quite quickly from a level 2 to a level 3. You do have to use these techniques, similes, metaphors, and personification. Think about the structure, and in particular, if you're going to have a character, think about what their profession might be. So then you are actually showing what they are rather than telling. Showing, not telling, that's what we use. So for example, if you're going to like be describing a businessman, that you might describe his suit and his tie is really tight around his neck and he's got an expensive watch on his hand. Or if you want to describe a mum on a journey to drop, I don't know, her children to the nursery, you might do like things like, I'm kind of very stereotypical here. I'm just trying to think of things that, oh, when I had my children, it might be like leggings and a baggy jumper, but then there's still like a bit of a detail that there might still be, or a bit of dry sick on their shoulder, because it happens all the time when you have babies. They just are sick on you. So and when you're a busy mom, you might not realize that that's still there, and because there might be a busy mom, like maybe their hair is a bit disheveled, and in a ponytail, and no makeup. You know, like giving those ideas about your characters, just showing rather than telling. Okay, so this homework is all about planning. I'm not gonna. It's gonna be really short because it's really about your ideas. Um, so you have to fill in this in. Try not to write it. This is a key. It's not about writing it. It's about thinking, what would I write in the different sections? Now remember, you might not want to use this structure. You might decide that you want to introduce your character first and then go to the weather. Or you might decide that you want to start with your character's thoughts and then go to the physical appearance and then go to the weather and the setting. You might decide that you want to start with a problem and then go to the. So can you see, it's really important that you be thinking about that. However, one of the things I do want you to think about is that whatever you write at the beginning, you also write at the end. So if you need to change this plan, please do so. And if, for example, you decide that you're going to start with your character, maybe you put a 1 next to that. And then if you decide that you're going to do the weather, then you're going to put here a 2. Then if you want to move to the thoughts, maybe you're going to put here a 3. Then here you can develop the problem, the flashback. If you want to go for the problem there, you might put a 4. Then you might do a return to something else, then you put a 5. And then you put a 6. Okay, so do play around with this. It does not have to be strictly in this order. We're just trying to teach you an order, just in case you struggle with an order. Now, personally, I like this structure. I find it really easy. It helps me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of give you an idea of how you might plan the beginning and the end. I'm not going to do the middle. Well, I might do the character and then I'll move on. So the first thing is I always start, like, it doesn't matter what the picture is. I always start with like a bit of rain. So I'm going to put here that it's a bit rainy. Okay. And the reasons why I like to do that is because describing rain gives you like loads of vocabulary that you can literally use. So first of all, when I'm describing rain, I try to actually describe the sky first. And I think actually about the color of the sky. So the sky might be grey, dull, bleak. I'm trying to think of words that I might be using. But sometimes as well, I do straight away, there is a metaphor that I use all the time to describe the sky when it's like really cloudy. And then I might describe it something like concrete grey or the concrete sky. And one of the reasons that I like to do this is because if at the end I decide that my story is going to be sunny, because I want to create a bit of a contrast. So look at the way that I plan the beginning and the end kind of one to each other, next to each other. So I'm going to say that it's going to end on a positive note. So a bit of sun. I'm going to draw it here. So I've got a bit of sun. And actually what I'm going to say is totally about how the sun rays maybe cracked the concrete sky. So I try to use a bit of a cyclical structure. Okay. They might have dried the concrete sky, you know, make it broken, brittle. That's a nice word. When something is brittle, it's like it breaks away, a bit like pastry. Okay, so I'm starting to gather ideas in terms of what I'm going to write at the beginning, I'm going to write at the end. If I'm going to describe the sky, I'm going to do that. When you describe the weather, I always, of course, like to also describe the wind. Now, depends, I might not make the wind very strong, or I might want to make this, depends on what I want to do, so I might personify the wind, so I might talk about it, or zoomorphism, howling. I might say personify, like pushing the trees, and because I'm saying pushing, I'm already getting a bit of a simile, so I might say something like a bully. Okay, so I'm already getting ideas I might want to write. So I've got the sky, the wind, and then of course I've got the rain, and I'm going to describe the way that the rain looks, and I'm going to describe the way that the rain kind of falls down. So depending on how harsh I want the rain to be, or how light I want it to be, that really affects the language. So I might say the rain fell like bullets. So that might make the rain sound really harsh. I might talk about it pouring and then soaking everything in its path. I might talk about how it was drumming. So I'm using again, I'm using kind of metaphors and actually quite a bit of onomatopoeia there. I've also might say that it affects the visibility. Sorry, visibility. Okay, of things. Creating, and I might say almost like a sea of fog. Okay. So I'm starting to think about things that I might want to say. Now, when I'm doing my beginning paragraph, sometimes I split it into two. I split it into the weather, so one, and then I split it into the setting. So because I'm going to be describing kind of this road, I'm going to be on this journey. I'm going to talk about the road. So that's going to be my setting, so the road. And I might use a minor sentence actually, I'm getting that ready. The road, full stop. And then I'm going to repeat that, the road. I'm not writing the full, so I'm thinking about how I'm going to describe the road. And because the road is quite long, and I want to maybe suggest that my journey is long, I might talk about it like spreading or elongated. Or I might use a bit of a metaphor that it's a serpent. So you know, as winding and long. So I'm starting to think about how I describe the road, and then maybe the cars as I go around. Are they moving fast or slow? Because you're trying to create that sense of monotony. So maybe dragging. You can't drag your wheels. Would that be interesting? Dragging their wheels. So again, using maybe a bit of personification. And I might talk about actually every now and then slipping. Because I've said that it's raining, I'm going to create this idea that the road is a bit wet. Slipping over like the shiny tarmac. Because I'm describing the cars, I might not only describe the way that they move, but I might describe their headlines. Not headlines, the headlights. Okay, so can you see I'm starting to get what I'm going to write in that paragraph in some detail. So that would be my first two paragraphs, and then I will go into my character, then I will go into what they're thinking, and then I will go into like the problem. Now remember, when you're doing the problem, it doesn't have to be something big. If they're driving, it might be that they're thinking about where they have to be. They're worried about their boss, or they're worried about being late somewhere. And then maybe like they're stuck in traffic, or the traffic is moving really slow, there's a lot of traffic. And then this is what kind of why I'm going to do a bit of sun at the end, because they're free and they're allowed to move. Okay, so hopefully you find this helpful in helping you think about how to plan for your homework 2.6.